gentlemen, welcome to TGW Turnbuckle Talk. Here are your hosts, EvilPenguinGaming and OddSmith311.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 3 of TGW Turnbuckle Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. I am EvilPenguinGaming.
And I am OddSmith311.
Okay, so last week we went over our favorite single finishers and our favorite tag team finishers. Had a lot of similarities and a couple of pretty interesting differences, I thought.
I think the difference is, in a weird way, it really speaks to our contrast. And, you know, we have a lot of similar views in wrestling, but there are different. I don't think there's anything we've actually ever argued about, per se, but there are definitely things where our tastes differ. You know, that's what's fucking cool about it, man. And that episode was a lot of fun to do too.
It was a ton of fun to record. But, you know, you brought up a good point. That's what's great about being a wrestling fan, is that not everybody's going to see eye to eye on everything, but it's a great conversation piece. Yeah, because you and I could sit and talk about our favorite finishers and debate them all day long.
And it's not like there's so many dimensions to it. It's not just looking straight up at the move, what it does physically, and going, okay, this does more damage. There's like this whole, like, I don't know, like emotional spectrum to it where it's like, no, but this move, when I saw this move as a kid, oh my god, you know what I mean? Like, that's what makes it so much interesting with professional wrestling conversations in general. You're not just critiquing or talking about the athleticism, which in itself is amazing, but it's also the impact it had on you as a fan, because it is a performance.
Right.
Like, same way we talk about music. When we hear a certain song at a certain time, you know, very similar. So you're right. It's cool.
Man, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go off topic, but speaking of music, I know you said you're not a fan, but that Pop Evil show that I went to recently was amazing.
I don't know if I just don't know. I don't really know them. Like I said, I was in a band that opened for them, but that was like 8 years ago, man. Like a headline. They were just like. They had like one single out or something like that. So yeah, I thought they were good then, you know.
Yeah, that was when they were just getting started. But I'll tell you what, Mackenzie, she's been listening to like nothing but Pop Evil lately. It's really reignited her love for the band, and she's just like rediscovering the band, and it's just so cool to see.
I'll listen to some of it today since I'm off today. I plan on just lounging around and gaming. I'm pretty open-minded for some new music right now. I've been going back and listening to stuff like I've been listening to Great Malenko, like religiously. I don't know why all of a sudden, but there's just something about that album, man.
The only Great Malenko is Dean Malenko.
Great Malenko.
Oh wow, I did that laugh a little too well.
That was good.
So,
okay. Sorry.
This week's topic is a quite controversial topic, I think, because we are going to be talking about the death of Kayfabe.
Kayfabe?
Now, just to put, a definition to the word Kayfabe, in case any of you don't know, I mean, if you're listening to this, you should. Kayfabe is basically what used to be, and I mean, to a point still is for kids, professional wrestling's want for you to be able to suspend disbelief. Like in Kayfabe, WrestleMania 5, Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man were absolutely bitter rivals. Everybody believed it. But, in real life, they were great friends. I mean, that might not be the best example, but an example that I can use today is Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa.
Yes, there you go. That's a perfect example for a contemporary example.
And I just heard a quote from Triple H a few days ago, talking about how they are really the locker room leaders in NXT, and they feel responsible to make NXT the product that we see on a weekly basis that is absolutely unbelievable. But on TV, they have seething hatred.
One of the most, if not the most believable pro wrestling angle I've seen in years, as far as like the audience. It's that perfect level of heat. It's not the kind of heat where it's like, get off my TV, you're a douchebag, I can't stand. Well, maybe that is. Let me rephrase that. It's not the kind of heat where we just don't like you in real life. We don't want to see you go away. It was that heat where we just, as fans, we just detest you. And how can you do this to Johnny Gargano? And you're gonna pay. It was that old school people cussing, yelling cuss words at me. I remember what match was that? The last takeover, the one before.
It's been every takeover. They've main evented the last 3 takeovers, and at every single one of them, there's been "fuck you, Ciampa" chants.
The last one I saw, I think, was not this last one, but the one before. And I was just so impressed with their performance, with the overall presentation. Because here's the thing: it would be easy to say that. You can say, well, can't you just say kayfabe means storyline? Okay, that's kind of true, but at the same time, it has a deeper meaning than that. Kayfabe, it's carny speak. It's
right.
It's for when nowadays, like you've said before, wrestlers are out there on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, their reality shows, and it's a wink. You know what's going on. But back in the 70s, man, and into the 80s, the 60s, back in those days, I mean, kayfabe. Well, first of all, it was what they would yell if someone was coming into the locker room that wasn't a wrestler and wasn't part of the boys. That's why they said kayfabe, and everybody would know to start acting. Okay, we got to act like, because back then you had a heel locker room and a babyface locker room, and they couldn't interact with each other. And if you went out to a public place and you saw one of the baby faces and you were a heel, you couldn't be friendly with them. It's just it leaked over into, it was like a meta thing. It leaked over into real life. It was a storyline, but it was also, you had an emotional investment to it because you thought it was happening.
Right. I mean, as kids, of course we all like I said, suspend disbelief.
Yes.
Because as kids, you believe in a lot of things that once you become an adult, you realize, okay, I was told to believe this because I was innocent. I was a child, and my parents and everyone around me really is trying to do what's best for me.
Yeah.
But then, you grow up and you learn about certain, I'm not going to go too far into it in case anybody is young listening. I'm going to say fairy tale creatures.
Yeah.
And you learn about how absolutely fake reality TV is, but we won't get into that.
But what you just said is a good example, because that's an example of a case where you're trying to inflict as much real life into the story as you can.
Right. But, when I was a kid, when I'm looking at, say, let's take WrestleMania 7, for example. Hogan and Slaughter. Back, even going back a few months prior, Royal Rumble 1991. when Slaughter won the title as an Iraqi sympathizer, and Desert Storm was declared during the Royal Rumble.
Oh, man. Talk about bleeding over into real life.
Right. But as a kid, I'm looking at this, and I'm seeing Sergeant Slaughter and wanting to absolutely kill him. Because I believe in my heart that he's a traitor.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, people... He got death threats, and... I don't know if anybody ever actually tried to attack him, like physically outside of an arena or something, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, let me give you... I'll tell you why I use this example. Because this is the best example that I can think of just off the top of my head where kayfabe bled into real life. Simply because WrestleMania 7 was supposed to take place at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. Supposed to hold over 100,000 people. Would have been the biggest WrestleMania ever. Even to this day, they have... I mean, I think Dallas, they might have broke that, but with Sergeant Slaughter, and like you said, death threats, bomb threats, because that was an arena with no roof on it, they had to change arenas. Simply because they wanted to keep kayfabe alive.
Yeah.
They couldn't go on TV and say, okay, listen, we need to explain this is all an act, this is all a storyline. Just like Vince said in Beyond the Mat, we make movies.
Yeah. Sports entertainment.
Exactly. That's why it's called sports entertainment. That's something else we could get into at another time, but that is why they couldn't do it. They couldn't bring themselves to break kayfabe, so instead they lost hell knows how much money.
And how many pissed off people? I mean, how
exactly. It's insane the lengths that they went to back then just to keep kayfabe alive. Because they went from over 100,000 seats in WrestleMania 7 to less than 20,000.
And
that's less than a fifth of the crowd.
And there's a whole argument out there that about whether or not, the poor taste of WWE or WWF at the time even doing that angle to begin with, which I guess it depends, because they didn't know the war was going to be declared. I think the angle kind of, I don't know how much longer it went on after that, but I think they started really, walking on eggshells even more than they were, because I know at one point they talked about burning an American flag. Well, obviously they didn't. They burned a Hulk Hogan t-shirt.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, man, like you said, they had to keep that. They had to keep that aura alive. They couldn't come out and say, "Hey, wait a minute, this is real." I mean, this might actually be dangerous. Like
it's just it blows my mind the differences that were made in less than 20 years. Because you figure that's back in 1991. And, I mean, hell, less than 5 years. If I'm gonna be honest, when I think kayfabe started to die was Montreal.
Yeah, I think as far as the general public and the nationwide, even worldwide, I guess you could argue.
Right.
That was once again, that was one of those moments where, like, wait a minute, this is real. Well, wait a minute, it's supposed to all be real. What do you mean this is real? Like, well, no, this is like really happening. Well, I thought it was all, what I mean? Like, there was a crack in that, or maybe just more of the curtain being violently pulled back all of a sudden.
I'll give you that. So, in case anybody doesn't understand what I'm talking about, Survivor Series, 1997, when Bret Hart was defending his WWF Heavyweight Championship against Shawn Michaels in the main event. Bret Hart had been heavily rumored, and this is well before the internet was a big thing. Heavily rumored to be leaving WWF for WCW.
For a substantial amount of money.
Right. And Vince McMahon was afraid that he was gonna tell, or that he was going to take the title to WCW with him.
Which there was a precedent for that.
There was a precedent for that with Alundra Blaze. But we're getting too far into this. Before we get any further, we're going to go ahead and do a little bit of promotion. So we will be right back.
Join me, OddSmith311, and the rest of the BTV crew every Thursday night, starting around 9 o'clock, for Insomniac Hours. I'll be playing some of my favorite games, from Super Nintendo to Wii, PC to Xbox One. We'll be all over the place. It's what we like to do. We stay up late, we play games. You can follow us on Twitter, Bananarama_TV, for updates and interact with us during the show. Be there or be square.
Don't be square.
Join us every Friday evening as Felix and Loom.
And whoever else I can convince to come play games with me.
Usually, hopefully me, OddSmith311.
Oh, someone will be there with me.
We'll be doing multiplayer gaming this season. Something we're going to try.
Yes, every Friday night. We're going to be playing various games with our friends. And it probably will vary greatly depending on what games everyone has and what we want to play. So, it should be an interesting potluck of gaming.
So yeah, stop on by and let's all game together and do what we do best.
And if you don't want to play and you just want to lurk in the chat room, well, that's fine too.
You can find us on Discord as well.
Yep, so the main place for that is twitch.tv/Bananarama. Thanks for listening.
Join me, Evil Penguin Gaming, every Wednesday this season at 1 p.m. for Retro First Timer. I'll be playing games, old games that I've never played before, like Zelda, Star Fox, Mega Man. You never know what's going to pop up. That's every Wednesday at 1 p.m. for Retro First Timer with Evil Penguin Gaming.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. And we want to take a second here to thank our Patreon supporters. We appreciate you very much. You help us do what we do. All the donations, all that money stacks up, and it helps us afford some really good things for the channel and the station that we normally couldn't.
And all that money goes right back into the channel. We appreciate everything everybody's done for us, and we just want to continue to make the best entertainment we can, and do what we enjoy doing: playing video games, interacting with everybody, and trying to make as much original content as we can. So stop on by. We have all kinds of perks that you can be part of.
We got perks. We're gonna give you shout outs. We'll put your names on our videos. It's a way to help out and support if you're not sure how, and you like what we do. It's patreon.com/Bananarama TV.
Once again, we'd like to thank everybody who supported us and everybody who's donated and continues to help us grow.
Thank you.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay!
So, yeah. Montreal Screwjob, Survivor Series, 1997. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, WWF Championship. Vince McMahon is afraid that Bret Hart is going to take the belt to WCW because of Alundra Blaze / Medusa going out on Nitro. And tossing the WWF Women's Championship in the trash.
Man, that was, I tell you what, the fact that she's back in the fold speaks volumes about there can't be very many people left that they won't forgive. I mean, like, she threw away their belt on national television. I mean, had that ever been done?
Nothing close to that had ever been done at that point.
Because that's another good, example when you're talking about blurring the lines. Is the NWO and what they did, how they changed wrestling and made people start questioning what they were seeing. Well, wait a minute.
Right.
That was a wrestling match, but these guys are actually beating them up. Oh my God, they're hurt. To the point where when they were doing a segment on Nitro one time, and it was the one where Kevin Nash spears, not spears, but he picks up Rey Mysterio and darts him into the.
Yep.
And they actually had people calling the cops, saying there was a gang fight going on. And I mean, you can't get more like realistic than that.
Right. And Larry Zbyszko's called. He threw him like a lawn dart.
They threw him.
Oh.
But you believed
Larry
it, man.
Zbyszko. Yeah, he did. So, back to Montreal. Finish of the match is coming up. Shawn Michaels puts Bret Hart in the sharpshooter as kind of a slap in the face. And the referee calls for the bell. Still to this day, a lot of people don't know if it was a work or if it was a shoot. I firmly believe it was a shoot.
I do.
Vince is standing there at ringside with Patterson and Briscoe, a few other people. Shawn scoots out of the ring, grabs the title. Bret is standing in the ring wondering what the hell just happened. Spits in Vince's face. Writes WCW in air letters with his finger. And Vince and Shawn and company escape to the back. Now, that's what we know. That's what we have seen.
Yes.
I won't go into anything we've heard that may have happened in the back. We weren't there. To reiterate, we are just fans.
And it becomes a big game of
He said, she said.
Yeah, because I more lean to believe, at least as far as like administrative people go, like I believe for the most part like the Bruce Pritchard account. But Bruce Pritchard has he has a reputation for being full of shit sometimes. So we got to, but I think it's one of those things where they took it. I don't think that they orchestrated it. But I do think they magnificently capitalized off of it, and were smart enough to use that to their advantage. And I think
absolutely.
I think that's why I think that's why why it feels like it was a shoot. You know what I mean? A work, because the way that it worked out, you can look back now and say, well, man, that was a genius idea, but it doesn't hold up
with the whole Bret screwed Bret thing, and then Bret ended up coming back after however many years. And
this, you talk about how kayfabe affects us personally. I was such a Bret Hart mark when I was younger, and for a long time I didn't hate WWE. I still watched them, but I was angry. I was always like, well, they shouldn't have done that to Bret Hart. But years later, now that I've learned so much about like how all that works and what's supposed to, it can't help but blame Bret Hart.
Oh no, I blame him.
I mean, he came because when you look at his background, his father ran what was it, Canadian Stampede Wrestling?
Yep.
Stampede Wrestling. he grew up as the son of a promoter. He knows how that shit works. I think something happened to Bret Hart, because he'll go down as my favorite probably. I mean, man, I love Bret Hart, but I can't even listen to the guy anymore. He's
so bitter
and hate. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Again, everybody just two guys' opinions.
Oh yeah. I mean,
we need to make that clear that all of these podcasts are simply our opinions as fans.
Oh,
we are not part of the business. We have never been part of the business. But we have both been huge fans for many, many, many years. And these are just our opinions.
Yeah, anything you hear us say on here, I mean, you should take the initiative to go back and form your own opinion and look at it and, listen to the people's stories and see what you think. This is just people, two people who just been fans of us for so long, and especially I've gotten to be such a big fan of the backstage part of it, the story, like the inner workings of the business. You just see things a completely different way all of a sudden. Because when you're a fan, when you're younger and you're in that kayfabe zone, you're looking at it like these are real competitors, and one's getting screwed over and oh my god, dude! When I was a kid, I used to get upset, so emotionally upset, because like a guy would roll someone up and he would grab his tights and pin him, and the ref wouldn't see it. What the heck? Why did somebody come out there and tell him that happened? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I can't say that I ever got cried or anything over one, but I can say I've been very upset before when I was a kid. Angry, whatever you want to say.
So, another really good, I can't remember the date, but a really famous incident that happened happened with Rick Rude. When Rick Rude showed up on Nitro and Raw on the same night. Because Nitro was a live show and Raw was a tape show.
And that was a product of the Montreal Screwjob, ultimately. Because Rick Rude was just sick about it. And that's the story you hear. Once again, it's just, obviously we weren't there. But as it goes, Rick Rude's, that's why he did that. He was on, he was on Raw with a beard. And then he was on Nitro without a beard. Talking shit about Raw. It was just...
And that was just weird to see Rick Rude clean shaven. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, the whole thing was once again, as a kid, we're like, "Whoa, wait a minute! Like, this is really happening." Jim Cornette says it best, and it's not just Jim Cornette. I mean, I think in life, when you're trying to get people to believe something, you use as much reality as possible. Because if A is completely true and B is completely true, then you can usually lead the people to assume that C is true, even though it might be twisting the truth. And I think that sums up the wrestling mentality as far as kayfabe goes. Like, use as much reality as possible, but it's still a story. And obviously there were times where that didn't always work quite like that, unfortunately.
Right.
But I think for the most part, people can be... You got like the Matt Hardy and Edge thing.
That was a big one. Because that was when Matt Hardy had been fired at one point. And then he started coming through the crowd after Lita, in real life, cheated on him, because Matt and Lita were together for quite a while.
Yeah.
cheated on him with Edge, and then that's what got Matt Hardy fired because he couldn't keep his cool.
Yeah, didn't he go on the internet and start making a bunch of videos and talking about it or something?
I think it was something like that. But then you had him coming out and talking about, and then, well, even before that, because during this time, Lita was in a storyline with Kane. Because Lita was married to Kane on TV, but you had Matt Hardy saying how she was coming home to him every night.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
Oh, I do. And that was a big thing.
Yeah, because everybody's going, what the hell? What?
It's just, I mean, there's times when you get blurred lines. Not the song. That song is terrible.
I have no idea what song it is.
Consider yourself lucky.
Okay.
There are times when you had blurred lines like that, but then there's times when you look at well, before I get into that, give me a couple of your favorite examples of kayfabe being broken from older ways.
Older ways? Well, I don't know if this isn't so much an example of it being broken as it is the extremes that they would go to. And what's in this story, I should have looked it up ahead of time to have the exact information. But this is a very popular. It was in the news and stuff, so you can go back and find the information on this. But at one time there was a plane crash. It involved Ric Flair, Mr. Wrestling, and 2 other wrestlers who died. They died. Ric Flair sustained the least amount of damage, but he was still hurt. And Mr. Wrestling broke his back. But these people, they were all like heels and baby faces traveling together. So when the story broke in the news, people started putting it together that this guy, I feel bad, I can't think of his name, is Mr. Wrestling. So to prove that it wasn't him, this dude goes out and wrestles a freaking match. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks after his plane wreck, just to prove that he wasn't Mr. And I don't know how the hell he got away with it. You know, it had to be very carefully planned, I'm sure. But they were just so willing to go above and beyond. You got the wrestlers in Mexico. Some of the older ones will never take their mask off. Like what's his name? My mind just went blank. No Yob. Mil Mascaras.
Mil Mascaras, yep.
He always wears mask.
Those cars.
Yeah.
I looked up Mr. Wrestling here real quick. Is it George Burrell Wooden? Is that who you're thinking of?
Is that the one that was in the plane wreck? Because there was like several Mr. Wrestlings. I can't think it was Mr. Wrestling.
Yeah, I'm seeing all sorts of things here.
But they went out. I don't know, man. You'd almost think at a certain point, like, hey, yeah, okay, I'm really hurt. You know?
This one looks like it might be him. John Francis Walker. Trained by Pat O'Connor. He's on a NWA Legends thing.
Is he the one that got in the plane crash?
You know what? Let me.
I was gonna say, because I don't know I don't know the guy's name. I feel bad.
Bring it up here.
Because I kind of just remembered about this story as we were, getting going talking about it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll get that at another time.
Yeah, it was that to me is an extreme example of people going out of their way Junkyard Dog. There was a time he was feuding with someone, and they supposedly had blinded him. So while he was in real life, like for a couple weeks, like he wouldn't go out of the house unless he had like he had pretended like he was blind. And it's like, good God, man! You know, these guys. If you ran into him in a bar, this is another extreme example of kayfabe. If you were out drinking and someone come up to you and started challenging you, and you didn't beat that person's ass, you get fired a lot of times. I know Bill Watts was really well known for that. He's seen you down the road, you know, for not keeping up your appearance. So I think when you talk about breaking kayfabe, I think the curtain call was one of the first big.
Oh, good shout.
You know, like you're going the opposite direction, talking about people blatantly going out of their way to say in the Madison Square Garden of all places.
Oh wow.
For those who didn't know.
Now describe what you're talking about for people who don't know.
Okay, Scott Hall his contract was running out and he's getting ready to go to WCW. Kevin Nash, his look had it. His contract was running out like a week after. Something like it was like real close. So they were both on their way out, and they were going to do a job at Madison Square Garden. I believe I'm trying to remember who they were wrestling. They were wrestling Shawn Michaels and
Triple H.
And it was a cage match.
Yeah, it was a cage match.
And at the end of the match, they all came out together and like hugged and had like a big moment in the ring. But they were all bad guys and good guys, and they had just got done wrestling. But you know, they were all really good friends in real life as well, and that is a very well known fact. You know, the Clique, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
And as the story goes, they had asked Vince if they could do something, but I don't think Vince expected them to do what they did. They had a big hug in the middle of the ring and everything, you know, and that really screwed up Triple H's career, man.
Yeah.
I think he was supposed to win King of the Ring instead of Austin that year, right? I'm pretty sure.
I think so. I know he did win King of the Ring at least once.
Well, I think that was right before he was getting ready to get his big push. Yeah, and I think Austin ended up getting it instead. But he got skyrocketed back to the bottom of the card because Kevin Nash and Scott Hall were gone. They're not going to touch Shawn Michaels. He was like one of the biggest, if not the biggest star at the time. They're very at the top of the heap. So someone had to take the blame. And I mean, every old timer and everything was screaming for their heads. I mean, it was just, which is so funny now because that's like normal.
Right. Heat transference. That's what that was.
Yeah.
But yeah, the curtain call, that's a really good shout. Now, let me tell you, what bothers me is how much they used to go through, how much they used to put themselves through to keep kayfabe alive, the kind of stuff we've discussed.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you see stuff, whether it be on social media, whether it be on the WWE Network, online, you know, on videos. I'll tell you one of my best examples. And now, don't get this twisted. I absolutely love Up, Up, Down, Down.
Mm-hmm.
I watch Up, Up, Down, Down all the time. It's Xavier Woods' YouTube channel. It's a gaming channel.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love it. Of course I do. But the problem that I have with it is the fact that kayfabe is so dead now that while the New Day have been in a storyline with the Bludgeon Brothers on TV, you're seeing Xavier Woods and Luke Harper sitting in the back playing video games together, being best buddies. That bothers me.
That's not just the death of kayfabe. That's like burying kayfabe, or unburying it, pissing all over it, setting it on fire, and then burying it again.
It bugs me so badly. And you don't just see it there. You see it all over the place. You see it on these quote-unquote reality TV shows.
Yep, the Divas.
With the Total Divas and the Total Bellas, and now you got frickin' Ms. and Mrs. I've never watched a single episode of any of those shows, and I do not plan to.
I don't know. I've seen Total Divas a few times. My mom was a big proponent of it. I got, 'cause my mom, my parents were, my mom more than my dad, but they were wrestling fans. I mean, they were right there with it. They never got into it as much as we did, but they still were fans. My mom loves the Total Divas thing. And I watched it a few times, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this. I mean, watching it is enjoyable. I mean, turn the sound off. Giggity. But no, you're right. You got like these people that are on TV supposed to be beating the shit out of each other in real life, going out and just hanging out and being besties, or just having these like really picky, passive aggressive arguments that are so different from what you're seeing them in the ring. I think you bring up. I think that the Up Up Down Down is a very good example of that. I think that's one of the most shining examples of it. That whole
it just bothers me. I don't agree with it. Like I understand that all these guys, like some of them, yeah, they don't like each other, I'm sure. But I mean, as a product that's so old and that worked so hard to keep the suspension of disbelief alive for as long as they did, and to see what it's become now, I'll just say it breaks my heart, man.
It is, man. It really, because I've said this before. I feel like I fall in the Jim Cornette class of thinking to an extent, not completely, because I think the guy grew up in a certain thing. He grew up in the heart of the business, and it's changed so much. I mean, look at how it affected us as fans. How much it changed. How difficult is it for him to see some of this stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
You can't go back to when it was completely fake, I swear, completely real, and people didn't.
Don't use that word.
Well, I just got thinking one of Jim Cornette's rants about that word. But you could still, even now, you see matches with guys like, when I saw the Daniel Bryan Miz match at SummerSlam, and I don't know how those guys feel about each other in real life, but to me, it did such a good job of carrying on this very long, arcing storyline that they hate each other's guts. And you feel that in the match. You feel that Daniel Bryan's frustrated because he can't beat him. You feel, I mean, and that's right now. As we're recording, that just happened, a week ago?
Yeah.
I mean, that, I don't know, man. That just, it can be done. Even in WWE can be done. You don't have to.
Yeah. Go ahead and finish.
Well, I was going to say, you don't have to give that wink and the nod to the crowd. We get it. Like, you don't need to insult us. If you take it seriously, we'll take it seriously.
And it's funny that you use the word insult, because that was something in Vince's famous promo to kick off the Attitude Era.
We don't want to insult your intelligence.
Yes. And that's exactly it just, God, it bugs me so badly. But yeah, Bryan and Miz, is one of the best examples of kayfabe still being somewhat alive, because that feud has been pretty well protected.
Yeah.
Just like Gargano and Ciampa is really well protected, as it should be, because it's amazing.
Oh,
But
it's beautiful. I need to go back and watch the last Takeover, man. I haven't seen it yet.
yes, you do. I didn't watch it live because I was at that concert, but I came home. I did everything I could to avoid getting spoilers. I didn't have any spoilers for it. So I came home and everything was fresh to me, and I was able to watch it right before I watched SummerSlam. I had like an hour gap. So I watched the Wrestle Talk review.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time the Wrestle Talk review was over, I had like 3 minutes before the SummerSlam kickoff show started. I was like, that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's some awesome timing. That's kind of timing that gives me a Woody. I'll be honest. As a drummer, I'm sure you appreciate that.
Oh yeah. There's nothing better than some good wood, giggity.
Speaking of which, hold on a sec. Quick segue back to something we were talking about earlier. It was Tim Woods.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry. You said Wood, and that made... Yeah. Maybe that's weird that I thought of that, but I don't know. Sorry, I got us off topic, but I just had to... I know I wasn't losing my mind. It was one of those guys. But I think something needs to be said, too, because I was thinking about this while you were talking about... When you brought up what Vince said. I think we have to have... To be fair, we have to offer their point of view to an extent. One of the reasons that Vince came out and did that was because up until that point, the state athletic commission would charge. Basically, they would just hustle the wrestling promoters, because in order to make it seem like a real, if they were going to call it a real sport, they had to pay their dues to the state athletic commissions, and that was a way of Vince coming out and saying, okay, we're not going to let these guys get away with basically stealing from us anymore. I think that needs to be said. That doesn't necessarily excuse to the extent that he's gone to, but there was a business reason for it too, and they were getting. I mean, that's a thing in the business. These state athletic commissions would cause all kinds of problems if you didn't pay them the money they wanted, because you were presenting yourself as a real competition, and they were exploiting that. And that was one of the reasons Vince did that. So, I don't know. I guess
now it's sports entertainment.
I don't know, man. Like you said, if they just don't insult us and just don't wink and nod at the camera, it's all good. I mean, it can be alive to some extent today, but just God, man, you got me thinking about all the reality shows now.
I'll tell you another one that kind of bugged me for quite a while was them trying to act like Triple H and Stephanie were not married.
Oh my God.
When everyone knew better. And then it was I want to say it was Raw 1000 that Triple H, everybody was in the ring to start it off. DX was in the ring, and then Vince came out, and Stephanie came out, and Stephanie was leaving the ring, and Triple H said, "Thanks, Steph. See you at home." I mean, your brother's a gnome. Like, see, and that was just funny to me.
Yeah.
It was breaking kayfabe, but it was just funny.
And
Well, I feel like it was. I feel like it was kind of a shot at Vince, because right after that, Vince got right up in Triple H's face and said, "I hate you."
And that was not kayfabe, ladies and gentlemen.
No, it wasn't. Because everybody knew, and it was just funny.
And that's one of those cases where the wink and nod to the camera is kind of fun. It's almost like okay, that was entertaining. Like, or like when they did that. Do you remember when they went out and they read that note from the? I think was it Hunter in China and Shawn Michaels with a note from USA Network.
Standards and practices.
Yeah. I mean that was breaking the fourth wall, but that was great. That was.
I did not sleep with that woman.
I was up all night.
God.
Oh, well, one of the reasons for part of next week's episode. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Well, I think this was fun to just get out there and talk about it just because of the fact that I think what it ultimately comes back to is that when we started watching wrestling, once again, we were in a weird time because that curtain was slowly starting to be pulled back. But it's still... It was almost out of necessity. You know, things were changing. Cable television was making the territories more obsolete. You know, Hulk Hogan was becoming a movie star. Or, you know, at least that's how he really started getting big, was being in Rocky. And
Well, let's just say he was in movies.
Well, I mean, like, here's this pro wrestler all of a sudden. He was only in the movie for a few minutes, but it was Hulk Hogan. He was in Rocky too. And that was a big deal back then, you know, and all of a sudden you got... Now, we could go on a whole different direction. And this could do a whole show on itself with the Andy Kaufman. Although I think if we're talking about kayfabe, that deserves a mention because the Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler angle.
Absolutely.
What's funny is Andy Kaufman went to Vince McMahon Sr. first because he wanted to do. Andy Kaufman got it. Like his whole career was like that type of performance art where he was trying to elicit a specific response from his audience. He wasn't, he wasn't really a comedian. He was like more like a, I don't know, just entertainment. I don't know. But when he went to Jerry Lawler, they developed a partnership that lasted, until Andy Kaufman died, which led to some of the most iconic television. The appearance on David Letterman was 100% not planned. It was completely improvised, but you watch that. You can watch that clip right now as we're talking about it. You can find it on YouTube. Well, Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler on the David Letterman show. And these are two people who in real life are just so good of friends. Like, Andy Kaufman, he said that Lawler said that he always called him Mr. Lawler and was always real respectful. But you go and watch that show and you think these two guys are just hate each other's guts. And to me, that's like the highest form of the craft of the kayfabe right there. Which I really don't know if until the movie Man in the Moon came out, if many people, I don't know if many people knew that was even a work. I think people... I'll tell one story that I won't drag it out too long. Because like I said, that could be a whole show in and of itself. When Jerry Lawler finally got in the ring with Andy Kaufman, and he pilot drove him, Andy Kaufman was down on the mat, and they had the doctors out there checking him. And Lawler comes over and he says, "Hey, call the ambulance." Or Lawler's guy comes over and Andy tells him, "Call the ambulance." So he goes back and tells Lawler. Lawler's like, "We can't call an ambulance. It costs $500 or $300 or something, And he comes back and says, "Kaufman said they'll pay for it." So the ambulance came and got Andy Kaufman and put him in a neck brace, and he spent 3 days in the hospital in town before he left and went back to Hollywood. And he never even called Lawler. They had no communication or nothing. And once again, these are two people that in real life are just really good friends, but they're both so good at what they did. I mean, everyone believed it. You could not believe it. You know what I mean? It's just, it's such a great angle.
That's crazy to me. The ambulance thing that blows my mind.
I guess you can find there's a good shoot-down interview out there of Jerry Lawler talking about the whole thing, and he goes into detail more about about the ambulance story and everything. It's really cool.
Now, sir, my question to you is, do you personally believe that kayfabe should thrive, or that the company should just completely let it die?
Well, I think if you're looking at WWE, WWE to me is suppressing. They're going more for the entertainment than they are the illusion. At this point, they're so much overboard with the whole superstar thing. But I think if you look to like Ring of Honor, in NXT, which is a part of WWE, but to me it might as well be a different universe. It's alive and well in its current form because it could never stay what it was, and that's just a brutal fact of life. Especially, like I said, whether you're looking at the Athletic Commission thing, where you're looking at the territories going away because cable television and Vince taking advantage of that. It was never going to stay what it was. So, I mean, that's not even like you couldn't have that back. But I do think that there is a form of it. I think it evolved just like it always evolved. It just changed to fit the times. But I don't think that WWE, I think that they're perverting it. And they're not giving it enough due, which is what's driving a lot of people away. So I think that they don't need to get rid of it, or they need to take a page from their own company and NXT and look at what they're doing and saying, we know who these guys are. These guys have Twitter accounts, they have Facebook accounts, they have, you know what I mean? But when we watch them in the ring, and we've already said it, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, we feel like we're watching two people who hate each other's guts, or at least loathe each other on an emotional level. You know, like, that's right now. You know what I mean? Like, and like we said, they just did that with the Daniel Bryan Miz thing. So it's already there. They just have to give more. They just have to be a little more cognizant of what they're doing. Because to me, and this could be a whole other show, the booking is so erratic. You don't have time to care. You don't get these storylines that much anymore where you get invested. I thought the Alexa Bliss Nia Jax thing was a pretty good, like, kind of, you know, straight up heel baby, because you got these two people who are friends, and Nia Jax, who's this beast, she'll just dominate and destroy anyone, but she's also a human being, and this woman who's supposed to be her friend, and Alexa Bliss is one of the best heels in the business right now. Dude, she's such a good fucking heel. Like,
I absolutely agree with you.
She gets it. And she's another. There's plenty of wrestlers on that roster that get it. Especially when you're pulling in guys who've already been in Ring of Honor or whatever, OVW back in the day, or were around, you know, and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, who knew Jim Cornette, which some of these guys were, that eventually made the WWE now. There's plenty of guys that they have that know what they're doing, that know how to keep that spirit alive. They just have to give them the freedom to do it and not try to micromanage every damn thing they do. Because when you write a promo for someone, most people are going to sound like they're trying to recite something and not say something to you. They're so busy trying to remember what they're saying that they can't inject any emotion into it. because they're not feeling it, because they're trying to remember what to say. And I think that's where WWE fails right now. They have the people and the means to do it, but they're just, I don't know what it is. To me, it's a mystery. Why they can't elicit that feeling more from people, and instead they keep doing things like the reality shows. But do they? I don't know, man. There's WWE is a phenomena because there's never been something to compare it to, and it just keeps growing and evolves and this whole other thing. And it's like, well, why? I think they could do a better job of their writing and or just giving people more freedom. I also have to wonder how much their position that they're in affects that. They're a publicly traded company. There's this level of transparency that they're required to have. You know, so I don't know. But I still think that with a little bit of buckling down and actually paying attention, I think that there's no problem with having at least the contemporary version of Kayfabe in WWE. I think it's already there. I just don't think they take advantage. They don't exploit it enough.
I'll agree with you on that. Because, you know, like we mentioned, Gargano, Ciampa, Miz, and Bryan. Those are very, very believable storylines.
Yes.
But those are like the only two that I can think of right now.
Yes.
Because even the Nia and Alexa thing, like everybody knows, simply because of social media, everybody knows that they're best friends.
No, you're right. And I think that I told Divas weren't they both on there? I don't know.
I think so. Like I said, I have never watched it, so I really don't know.
But yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think because of the talent of the performers who know what they're doing, I think that they were able to generate a heat-filled situation with their interaction. But on the other hand, you do know that they're best friends, and you do know that what they're doing.
I mean, I love that storyline. That was a great storyline. And to anybody that's younger and not on social media, because there's absolutely no way that children should be on social media, but that's just my opinion. You know, that storyline may have very well been very believable with Nia and Alexa. So, I mean, kudos to WWE for that one, but to anybody that uses social media and watches YouTube and watches the stupid reality shows, everybody knew better. And that's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Up, Up, Down, Down. Same, you know. That's my problem. But I agree with you that there is a contemporary version of it alive, simply because they have demonstrated that they know how to book these things to keep kayfabe alive. Daniel Bryan and The Miz has been running for 8 years.
Yeah. Which I had forgot about the first part of it until they did the recap of SummerSlam.
Exactly. I mean, you talk about your long-term booking.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it wasn't planned with Daniel Bryan having to come out of retirement. But my God, even when he was in retirement, they kept that storyline alive when he was the GM on SmackDown.
Yeah. Well,
It's unreal. Yeah, Miz's infamous Talking Smack promo.
One of the best. I still get goosebumps when I listen to that promo, just because he sounds so believable. He sounds so angry, man. He just.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's insane. But yeah, I feel it should be attempted to be kept alive in, I guess, what you could call the temperate or the contemporary version of it, the contemporary model. But I just don't think, like you said, I don't think they're going to work hard enough to do that.
No. Because there's always been the chance of kayfabe is dead. They were saying that in the old timers were saying that in the 80s when WWF started doing some of their stuff. Then the people in the 60s were saying that about the 70s. I mean, it just I bet there's just been such a leap now in technology and stuff. Yeah, you're right. There has to be an effort made.
Yeah. And until that effort is made, I mean, my opinion's not going to change. So, ladies and gentlemen, that has been episode 3 of TGW Turnbuckle Talk. We thank you so very much for listening. Plug our socials. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/TGWrestling. You can follow us on Twitter at ThoseGuys734. You can follow me on Twitter at EvilPenguin1981. And you can follow my wonderfully, I don't even know what word I was going to go for.
Tag team partner.
I
don't know.
Splendiferous co-host on Twitter at
OddSmith311.
So, oh yeah, Twitch. Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe on Twitch. YouTube. Links.
Oh, you're asking me. Oh, sorry. No. Twitch.tv/Bananarama is where you can find episodes of TGW related content such as podcast and our stuff coming up, which we'll have more information for later in the year. Our new show's coming up. Also, other live streams from the Bananarama crew. You can also find us on YouTube by searching. The easiest way is to search for Control Freaks. We're usually one of the top options that come up. Give us a subscribe on there. We got all kinds of content coming up. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Bananarama Television, and on Twitter at twitter.com/Bananarama_TV. So it's good times. No excuse not to find us.
That's right. And just remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're professionals doing this. That's why we're stumbling through it.
Yes.
No, that is a lie. We're just fans. We enjoy the product, and we want to talk about it, and we want you to listen. And we thank you for doing so. So, for OddSmith311, I am Evil Penguin Gaming. And as always, together we have been. Count it down with me. A 1, a 2, a 3. Lows. Yeah.